Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of our podcast on negotiation. And today, as almost every week recently, we have a very special guest, and that is Mark Young, who is the president and founder of Rational Games. Mark, thank you for joining us. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am indeed the president and founder of Rational Games. We teach negotiation using playful methods. I live in Berlin. I'm German-American. I've been in Berlin almost 30 years. I came when the wall fell down, seeking my fortune, and I'm still seeking. But we work all over the world, and we love to play.
Yes, thank you, Mark. The topic of our today's chat will be games and their meaning, importance in conflict resolution. And I cannot imagine anybody else a better expert than Mark Young. Mark, could you tell us a little bit about the origins of your interest in negotiation and in games?
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of a journey. I mean, it started, I took a sabbatical from Price Waterhouse, where I used to work, and wanted to do a doctoral degree. And I was interested in game theory and also in applications to negotiation. I just thought that was relevant and interesting. And so I did that and spent a couple of years at Humboldt University in Berlin doing that, and also at Harvard for a year. And that created a book called Rational Games, which you can buy strongly discounted on Amazon. But it was mostly head games. It was game theory. It was Prisoner's Dilemma. It was various things like that. That fascinated me. And I was interested in questioning game theory. Do people really always maximize utility? I don't think they do. And so that was that. But then when I finished, then we decided to found our company, because by then my company had merged away from me. There was no more Price Waterhouse. It went to PwC, and all the corporate finance people went to Arthur Andersen, which wasn't very smart. And so I founded Rational Games, and then we began to play with the idea of games. And we realized, and I was interested in the serious games movement, that games is a lot more than game theory, that there are all kinds of games, anything playful. And I really got interested in that, in the whole idea of gamification and the power that it has to teach, first of all, and also to negotiate. So we developed it further, and we now have a very extensive repertoire. We do simulations, we do the classic negotiation things like Sally Swan Song and all of that, but we also have other simulations that we've written. We do a lot of improvisational theater. We bring in actors unannounced to do role plays with our participants. We do anything that's playful and that it's sometimes very edgy, because it's a real experiential sort of thing. The idea is that if a role play is really of high quality, it sticks with people a lot more than PowerPoint ever would. And so you are helping them to change their inner experience, which is what I'm after as a trainer. And then in negotiation, when you're playful and you're light and you have some humor, you go further. You get a better result. You really do.
Yes, we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail in a few minutes. Mm-hmm. I was wondering, when you guys founded Rational Games, yes, why did you decide to add rational to games?
Well, the idea and the branding idea, and this came later. It took a while to figure it all out ourselves. But the idea is, when I was a college student, I was a waiter in a restaurant in Los Angeles, and it was called the Velvet Turtle. People might have heard of it. And we were trained to say velvet for elegance, turtle for fun. And so we are rational, means that we're serious. We have the credentials. I have some gray hair. I have a tweed jacket. But, we're serious strategic thinkers. We help serious senior people to negotiate, but we do it through games. So it's serious, but it's fun. And our tagline is a playful negotiation for serious people. So that's
playful negotiation for serious people. That sounds like almost like an oxymoron, but it isn't. Yeah? And we'll talk about the details in a few moments. Mm-hmm. Do you play games yourself?
No, not much. Certainly not digital games. I'm not terribly interested in digital games as such. I mean, I do things like Duolingo on an app, and that's gamified. But I'm not so into the normal application of games. I'm much more interested in serious games, mm-hmm. How you can take serious topics and transport them through games. You know, the whole serious games movement started with in healthcare. I don't know if you know that, but in healthcare, this was 20 years or so ago. Someone broke their arm, let's say, and they were supposed to, and they're told by their doctor that they need to move their arm 100 times every morning, which is pretty boring. And so people don't do that, and so they don't get better. But then they had the idea to create a game which projects a basketball hoop and a ball that's digital, and then people very happily are doing that and watching the points, and their arms get better. And I think that is convincing, that you can take gamification and you can apply it to serious things, and it works because people love to play. It's so deep. I did a TEDx about this a few years ago, and it's one of the deepest human needs. I see it. I see it all the time. We teach we teach bureaucrats at the Deutsche Post, for instance, and I get them to play games, and they're delighted. They just come to life. And so the longer I do this, the more convinced I am of the power of games, to bring people to life, to help them learn, and then to negotiate better.
That's super exciting, Mark. Where do you think it comes from? Right? Is it does it bring back the memories, childhood memories? From when we were allowed to play, and then you sort of due to the course of life, we started working, start our families, and then forget that life can be playful. What is the mechanism that triggers these positive associations with playing games?
Well, I think we all know how. In the beginning, we all play naturally. I mean, babies play with their toes in the crib, and you watch little kids. They have no trouble playing. It's a natural instinct. And then somewhere along the way, and Piaget has done a lot of work on this. The inhibitions start, and we get too much in the head, and we drop it. And by the age of 7 or 8, we're not really playing so much anymore. Or at least we're not playing, we're playing consciously. And then we get very serious, and then we drop it completely because of it's not safe to play. You've got to be serious. You've got to be doing your career. But it's still there, I think. And I think the great challenge, not only people like me, but also people that are in the gamification world, is to unlock that. And normally it's about making it safe. So when we do seminars, we spend a lot of time on ground rules and safety and confidentiality. And that usually, if you create a safe space, people will let go and play. It's about trust. And that's when the seminar takes off, I think.
Yes, yes. So having the safe ball pit, so to speak, having ground rules, having the security, the feeling that nothing bad happens, even if I mess up, right? That's probably a trigger. Speaking of which, right? I think using the analogies and narratives, it's a very important and relevant topic. And I have a paper in front of me that you wrote together with Eric a few years back on what is the right analogy, what is the right narrative for negotiation. Yes. So is it a playful kind of a game dance type of an analogy, or is it a fight? Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about what you think about this the most suitable analogies in the context of negotiation?
Well, let me say that I'm very much a fan of metaphors. I use metaphors a lot when I teach because it sticks. And so when you look for what's a metaphor for negotiation, we did some thinking around that, and it is a fight because you are competing and you want to win. We all like winning is just as deep as play. But it is also a dance. And so that's when we ran into capoeira, which is, of course, a Brazilian fight dance that is quite popular. And what's interesting about capoeira, it was done by slaves in Brazil, is that they were basically fighting, but when the owners came by, they made it look like a dance. And so it's somewhere between a fight and a dance. And so what we actually did for that paper is we went to Kreuzberg and took capoeira classes to learn a little capoeira. And it is very beautiful, first of all, because it is that, there's a roda and a drum and people in a circle. And the idea of it, and this I find very compelling, is that it's not so much that I hit you, it's that I show you that I could have hit you in a beautiful way. So I'm demonstrating power, and I'm dominating, but I'm doing it in a gentle way, and I'm giving you space. And I like that a lot. I think that's the right way to approach negotiation. In improv, we always say, make your partner look good. So it's honoring the other person. It's having fun with them, but still being strong. Still not giving in, not submitting. So we wrote this little paper, which for the Harvard Journal, which it's a very playful paper. It would never make it in an academic context. But there we said, it's called The Rhythm of the Deal, and it says that, negotiation as a dance. What happens when you think of negotiation as a dance? And we actually isolated a couple of particular dances to follow the Harvard steps. And you start with the dance of positions, which we dubbed flamenco, which is where you say what you want in a very forceful, very clear way, and you're not giving any ground. And then you move from there to the dance of interests, which is more ballet. It's more giving and taking and beautiful, partnership and so on, and much more sensuous, much more emotional. And then I always end with jive, which is, trading, bargaining. I give you this, you give me that, So that's a very playful and non-academic approach. But the idea is, if you think of it that way, as opposed to a fight. And I think my number one objective in seminars is to make people like negotiation. I have so many people that come in, they're terrified, and they say, I don't like conflict, and I don't like, this is going to be a lot of work. And if I can get them to let go of that and have fun and realize that it can be a lot of fun, that's what I'm after. So, and thinking about the dance is one way in, because it's a metaphor that I think everybody gets. And the capoeira thing is quite accurate. So
yes,
I recommend my essay.
Thank you so much for sharing this. Yes, so let's continue our dance here. One of the reviewers, we recently submitted a paper on first offers, and one of the reviewers did not like our analogy. We used the analogy of chess. Why? Because we kind of perceive negotiation as an iterative game. So you move, then I move. You move, then I move. Yeah? And I myself used to indeed dance and play chess, and I sort of thought about it for quite a long time. Which is the more suitable analogy in terms of the context of making offers? Yeah. And I don't know what you think about it, but it seems that dance is where we synchronously repeat learned steps. Yeah? At least most of it. There's improvised dance as well, but whereas chess is where we react to each other's actions. Yeah? So, what do you think? Is it more a game of a chess or more a dance?
Very intriguing question. Let me think about it. I would say they're both interesting metaphors. What speaks for the chess is that it is strategic, that it is thinking in advance. It is. I mean, more than dances. The problem with chess is that it's a win-lose game.
That's true.
And so when we started Rational Games, we had a logo, and it was a chess piece, and it was burgundy, and it looked very elegant. I thought it was very Harvardish, and so we had that for 8 or 10 years. But then people kept asking me, chess is a win-lose game. Why do you have that as your logo? So then we started thinking about, well, what do you do? And then we thought about having the chess pieces dance. We did a little video where they unexpectedly danced. That was kind of fun. But then we decided with some help from graphic designers, decided to drop the chess, and now we do, and you know this from seeing our stuff, we just do lettering, and half the lettering is serious, and half the lettering is wacky, crazy, and so we don't have any kind of because I can't think of a logo, I can't think of a game that is win-win that you can use. And we thought of three-legged races, but. So I'm not so keen on chess because it's very cerebral, and it's very it's very linear. It's one thing after the next, and it's intellectual. And I think I am much more interested as I get older in the sensuous side of negotiation, in the holistic, approach and not just what's in the head. So
Yes.
I vote for a dance, but I see what you're saying, and I will think about that further.
Thank you so much. If you don't mind, Mark, we'll put a link to your company website and obviously to your paper, if that's okay, so that our viewers can have a look at it themselves. But speaking of which, speaking of games, what kind of games are you using while teaching people how to negotiate better?
Starting with simulations, we've written a number of simulations, also from the political world. We teach at the foreign ministry in Germany. So we've done some diplomatic things, the refugee crisis, sort of multilateral negotiations with some unexpected little twists along the way to make it fun. So that's playful and relevant for the political world. And I also teach increasingly in the last couple of years in the political world in Germany, advising there, and our clients there tend to be terribly serious, the German word is belehren, which means, that doesn't even translate, it means, teaching you, helping you. And so we try to train them to be less belehrend and more playful. And so we use simulations there that come from their topics, and they have very serious topics, like climate change and inequality and so on. But how do you transport that in a playful way? I have a good colleague and friend, Belina Raffi, who teaches what she calls sustainable stand-up comedy. So she takes very serious people like that, and she teaches them to tell jokes about it, which makes them much more interesting in a storytelling sense, and also transports the topic without letting go of the serious topic. So we do that. We do humor, we do simulations, we do a lot with actors who are trained to teach win-win. They know what we're after. So it's not just fun and games. They really know that it's, we teach empathy, for instance, with actors. And then I do a lot of improv. It's my love. So we after lunch, we always do a little improv to warm up. And then we talk about things like making your partner look good and dropping your story and following someone else and listening. And these things are so relevant for negotiation.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Mark, a vital and important part of your business, which I admire a lot, is your engagement in nonprofit projects. I read on your website that you reinvest the profits from rational games into projects around the world which aimed at using games in conflict resolution. Yeah? Could you share maybe a few of those projects and tell us how it works? What are the results? What are the examples? Where in the world you guys are engaged in, what kind of projects?
We're very small, tiny. We are a boutique. It's just mostly me with my 7 co-trainers that you can see on our website. Otherwise, no paid staff, so we're very small. But from the beginning, we had this idea that we wanted to have 2 sides to the business. We wanted to teach negotiation to senior people using playful methods. And then we wanted to have a side that used the proceeds of that to support projects that use games and play in the nonprofit sector. At the time, it was a bit of a Robin Hood idea. So you're using games on the one side and applying on the other. It's now morphed into what we call the Good Samaritan idea, which is trying to help people that are making a difference. And we get more and more liberal with our definition. To us, games can be many, many things. We started with soccer in Africa for kids from different tribes. Bring them together. They learn fair play. They learn to trust each other. Especially a place like Rwanda, the 2 tribes. We've done music. We did a project on the Nile River. The Nile River is a source of a lot of conflict because water is a key resource, and there are 9 countries and not much water. And so they're fighting, but the group of musicians that we discovered did a CD. This is in the days when we all did CDs, and went up and down the Nile on a boat giving concerts, and that brought people together. So music is a big one. We now work with Musicians Without Borders on an African projects, because they have some really interesting ideas on peace building through music. We do sports. We have an ice hockey project in Berlin. There's a former child swimmer from the Olympics from East Germany, who is now 50 and is founded this NGO where they go through the streets of Kreuzberg and Neukölln, and they pick up problem kids and take them to the stadium and teach them ice hockey. And they form a league, and they have a regular outlet, and the aggression goes into something harmless. And then they have a big tournament at the end with the cake on the ice, and it's all very, very nice, very warm. And that, I think, is cool. How hockey, is a source for bringing people together, and a lot of them have what the German called migrant backgrounds. So it's Germans and Syrians, and so we work a lot with refugees. We have a capoeira project. Go back to my theme, where they bring Germans and refugees together to learn capoeira as a sport. So anything that is playful, and that could be music, it could be dance, it could be theater. We have that as well. It could be or sport. So we're getting pretty liberal with it. Anything that is playful, that goes straight to conflict, people that wouldn't be together without it. And we have now given, I'm very proud to say, in 20 years, we've given away with partners $1 million to this, which isn't anything in the philanthropy world, but for us, it's a lot. But we're very keen to give away more. We're building partnerships with larger foundations because we're beginners at philanthropy. We didn't know what we were doing when we started, but that is the side of the business that interests me more as time goes on, because that's really where I get excited, because you're making a difference in the world with this idea. It's not just, working in the corporate world, helping them sell the toothpaste cheaper or less cheap, but it's really doing something significant. So
yes, so a big shout out to our audience, guys. If you have funds which you don't know how to invest, there's
rich people that like our idea. Put me in.
Yes, exactly. If you guys are inspired just as I am by what Mark and his colleagues are doing with Rational Games, reach out to them, help them out. The money invested in those areas has the best ROIs of all. Yeah, because they give you something that other investments cannot do, and that is
it's become a competitive advantage for us. Well, we think about what's our USP in the negotiation training world. Well, we're playful. That's fun. We are serious, and we are a social business, which in the early years we didn't say much about that, but we're more and more putting that in the forefront because I think clients like that.
Amazing. Yes.
They can't deduct their fee because they're getting a service, so it doesn't work for that. But they are supporting something, and we more and more want to link our philanthropy with our clients and with our trainers, so they can have a say in where it goes and how they're doing it. But so it used to be two very separate things, and now it's less and less so.
That's great to hear, Mark. Thank you so much for inspiring all of us. You're doing a great job with this. What do you think, Mark? You know that we're organizing negotiation competitions, right? Both for students to nourish their passion and somehow let them compare their negotiation skills with others. But we also recently started doing the same with professionals, so people who are negotiating as a part of their everyday job. So salespeople, key account managers, procurement, purchasing, deal makers. We get them together and allow them to sort of compare their negotiation skills along the dimensions that we've come up with. What do you think about negotiation? Let's say, what do you think about comparing negotiation skills or using negotiation competitions in the spectrum of pedagogical methods to teach or incentivize teaching or learning negotiation?
I think it's a fabulous idea. I really do. I've been a judge for you once or twice on the I haven't done the new one. I'd like to do that. Simon Sinek, who everybody's heard of on the internet, wrote a book called The Infinite Game, which of course interests me a lot. And he talks about worthy rivals. In other words, you don't have to compete with people. There's nothing wrong with getting together and doing best practices and swapping stories and helping each other. I think that's what you're doing. You're bringing rivals together. And I'm all for that. I'm all for anything that collaborates, that helps people create something together, even if they're competitors.
It's quite amazing because many participants join our competitions to win, to beat others, right? To demonstrate the superiority. And at the end of the day, they become friends, yes, with other participants. So yes, we're sort of going in a very similar direction, yes, using a game to incentivize the negotiation, teaching, or learning. Yes.
Well, the hook is the winning, because we all have, it's so deep, we all want to win for whatever that's. I mean, you can say quite rationally, you look at a soccer game, who cares where this ball ends up and whether it's 2-3 or 4-1, it doesn't make it, but people are absolutely into it. So you can always get them with the hook of winning, and every competition is exciting. But from the one once or twice I worked with you on this, I realized that wasn't the main thing in the end. I don't think. And there was the camaraderie. It was the
exactly.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. I like that a lot.
Thank you so much, Mark. I would never let you go without asking you to share some insights about your second passion, and that is improvisation theater, and how this plays with teaching or learning negotiation. Now, we know that one of the most important parts in teaching or learning negotiation is learning how to prepare. So anticipating, planning strategically, and so on. But there's only a certain extent to which we can prepare what's going to happen or how we react to what is going to happen. And the rest, we have to improvise. So how do we teach people to react spontaneously to new incoming events or new information that we get in a negotiation?
Well, here's where you're back to the whole idea of rational games, because the rational is the preparation. And we put a lot of emphasis on preparation. We have worksheets. Figuring out what your alternatives are, what your interests are, what your issues are, your priorities, your ranges. We do all of that in a very left brain kind of way. And there's huge value in that, because people that are prepared are much stronger than if they're not. But then I always say, about halfway through, I say, please don't fall in love with your preparation. No matter how good it is, it's full of assumptions. And assumptions are dangerous. We go through life constantly making assumptions, and you learn to question your assumptions, and that takes you into the realm of improv. And if you start to play, you get surprises. They come up with things you didn't think of, and then instead of saying no, you can't do that, it's not on my sheet, you have to learn to let go. And one of the improv there's a central triangle of improv that came from the beginning, and it says there are 3 principles. One is let go. In other words, just drop your story, drop whatever you think you were going to do. If I come up to you and I hold up my hands and I say, here, Remy, this is for you, and I think it's a little bird, and you take it and you say, oh, it's hot, it's cold. I have to drop my bird immediately and follow the cold, even though I think that's a weird idea. But I have to make you look good, which is the second principle. So I don't want to embarrass you that you did something wrong or said the wrong thing. So I drop my little bird and I have this thought out story about the little bird and how fun it's going to be. It's over, and I stick with your story. And then you use everything is the third thing. You just listen, and you pick up anything that's happening and fold that into your story. So it's thinking on your feet. It's listening in a very deep way, which we have to be trained to do, and it's honoring other people's ideas and trying to build on them. There's the famous one of the most famous exercises that most of them know is the yes and yes but exercise, where you have pairs and you say, let's go to the movies tonight, and you say yes but I don't have any money, and then I try to say, well, yes, I'll lend you the money. Well, yes, but I have to be home by 10. So you're always having these reasons why it won't work, which is the default setting for a lot of people. Why won't this work? And the yes and is you have to pick it up, no matter how weird it is, and say yes and add something on top. And it gets very fun because you end up with ridiculous ideas, but people have great fun, and they realize the power of yes-anding, as we call it, the power of just picking up an idea and playing with it and not killing it. And in negotiation, when you want to make the pie bigger, as we teach, you need creativity, you need ideas, you need to think bigger. And one way to do that is through improv, I've learned.
Thank you, Mark. That makes me want to book one of your seminars or swing by in Berlin and learn more about it. One question I've been that's been buzzing in my head ever since we started talking about improvisation is to what extent do you believe that this spontaneity and creativity, these spontaneous reactions can be learned? Is it something that that creative and spontaneous people go and do improv, self-selection, or can we just take a lay person like myself, who has absolutely no idea, needs to think strategically and be prepared, right, and chase me through an improv training and make me a spontaneous yes-ender?
You can do it, Remy. It's all there. It's inside of you. It's like unlocking the play, as we talked about earlier. It's there. I'm a prime example. I'm about as left brain a person as you'll find. I mean, I started as a banker, and then I was a McKinsey consultant, and I did lots of decision trees and lots of matrices, and very, very linear, very, very left brain. And I had to learn, to let go of that. And I don't know what drove me to improv. It just sounded like fun. But over the last 10 years or so, I've just really learned the power of thinking differently, of getting out of the box and getting out of the routines and the 3 steps and the Gantt chart and all the things and just playing. And I think that was in me all the time, and it's been unlocked. I'm still working on it, but I think it's in you too. I think I really believe that we fundamentally are geared to play. It's in our DNA.
Yes, that sounds great, Mark. My last question is about great negotiators.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about everything that you cherish, that you know and cherish in terms of what makes up a great negotiator, which however you define it, yes, who comes to your mind as an example, personification of those traits?
It's not very creative, but I always come back to Mandela for different reasons. I'm more interested there in the ethical side, because he was a deeply ethical man, a very gentle man, very focused and forgiving, and very wise. And I think that's a whole nother set of skills. But I think when you look at what he did, and I wrote a piece about this as well some years ago, in South Africa, everybody said this is hopeless. It's apartheid, and they're going to have a bomb, or they're going to have a civil war, or there's going to be bloodshed, and what are you going to do? But somehow they negotiated, they let him out of jail, they talked, and they got an agreement, and they got a new government and a new constitution without bloodshed. And lots of problems, but wow, what a negotiation result. And the power that he had was not from having an army. He didn't have much money either. He had a really, really complicated home front. There were 9 tribes that hated each other. He had the chief Buthelezi, who was a troublemaker and kept, giving him curveballs. But he was ethical, and he was clear, and he was kind. And I think that is impressive.
Thank you so much, Mark, for being with us today. Our guest was Mark Young, founder and president of Rational Games. Guys, look up their website. I will post Mark's articles as one of the links under our podcast. Mark, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Great conversation.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.